Hello everyone, my name is Kayvon Karimi and I'm presenting on behalf of Cyber Realm Sentinels. Today I'll be walking you through our comprehensive security transformation of DesignWorld, a project that spans the entire Cyber 514 through 516 Capstone sequence. This presentation covers how we took a vulnerable post-breach organization and transformed it into a secure NIST-compliant enterprise. Let me start with the big picture. DesignWorld is a multinational engineering firm with 100 employees spread across 3 locations globally: San Diego, Hong Kong, and Brussels. They serve U.S. government customers, which means they must comply with NIST standards. This isn't optional, it's a contractual requirement. Our approach followed the complete security engineering lifecycle. First, we conducted a vulnerability assessment to identify weaknesses. Then we performed penetration testing to confirm those vulnerabilities were actually exploitable. Based on those findings, we developed a security hardening plan, implemented the controls, and then validated everything through rescanning and additional penetration testing. Now let me walk you through what we actually accomplished. 35 vulnerabilities when we started, 0 when we finished. That's 100% remediation across the board. Critical, high, medium, low, all of it gone. We hit full compliance with NIST SP 853, CIS Benchmarks, and ISO 27001. And here's the part that we are most proud of. We didn't just say the vulnerabilities were fixed, we proved it. We went back in, ran penetration tests against the hardened system, and nothing got through. 0 exploitable attack vectors. But at the end of the day, this was really about one thing: protecting their intellectual property, their designs, their crown jewels, and we built multiple layers of defenses around them. So why did DesignWorld need us in the first place? They had experienced a devastating security breach. It started with physical break-ins targeting their offices, then came targeted hacking of the remote designer systems. The result, millions of dollars worth of intellectual property stolen. This forced a complete business shutdown. All offices were closed. All designers were taken offline. In response, they initiated an emergency cloud migration, and that's when they contracted Cyber Realm Sentinels. But here's the critical problem. Their new cloud environment was deployed hastily without proper security evaluation or documentation. The engineering community knew about the theft, and their government contracts were at risk of termination. When we conducted our initial assessment using Tenable Nessus Professional, we found 35 vulnerabilities, 1 critical, 5 high, 24 medium, and 5 low. This was an unacceptable risk to business operations. So now I want to focus on the single most dangerous finding in our assessment: the domain controller, the heart of their Active Directory environment, was vulnerable to Eternal Blue. For those unfamiliar, Eternal Blue is an exploit that targets a vulnerability in Microsoft's SMB v1 protocol. It's associated with CVE 2017, 0143, 0144, and 0145. The CVSS score, 9.8. That's critical severity, the highest possible rating. Why does this matter? Because this exact vulnerability was used by WannaCry, Petya, and Eternal Rocks, all ransomware attacks that caused billions of dollars in global damages. So let me walk you through the attack path. An attacker enters through the VPN gateway, reaches the private cloud network, and exploits the domain controller's exposed SMB v1 service. The result? Full domain compromise, access to every system, every file, and every credential in the organization. If this had been exploited, DesignWorld would have faced complete IP exfiltration, loss of government contracts, and potentially bankruptcy. So how do we approach fixing these problems? We selected 47 individual security requirements across 8 major control categories. Our selection was driven by 4 key factors. 40% was mandatory compliance, NIST SP 853 requirements for their government customers. 35% focused on critical risk mitigation, protecting against those critical and high severity vulnerabilities. 15% came from industry best practices, CIS Benchmarks and ISO 27001. And the remaining 10% addressed business continuity, ensuring minimal operational disruption. All requirements map directly to NIST SP 853 controls, AC3 and AC4 for access controls, IA2 for identification and authentication, SC12 and SC13 for cryptographic protection, and SI2 through SI4 for system integrity. We also aligned with SIC benchmarks for Windows Server 2016 and Ubuntu 20.04, plus ISO 27001 controls for access and cryptography. So let me walk you through the specific actions that we took. On the Windows system, starting with the domain controller, we disabled SMB v1 and applied the MS1710 patch, completely eliminating the eternal blue thread. We restricted Active Directory ports to the management subnet only, enforced network-level authentication, and developed multi-factor authentication for all admin access. On the file server and workstations, we enforced TLS 1.2 and higher, and removed all weak ciphers, RC4, 3DES, which addresses the Suite 32 and bar mitzvah vulnerabilities. We configured AES GCM cipher suites for strong encryption and hardened account lockout policies. On the 4 Linux servers, we applied full package updates, enabled unattended security upgrades, and updated OpenSSH and OpenSSL. We deployed UFW firewalls with a default deny policy, disabled root login, enforced key-based authentication only, and implemented failed to ban to block repeated failed login attempts. So in total, we submitted 4 project change requests, all approved. We implemented 187 configuration changes with 0 rollback events and only 4.2 hours of total downtime. Now comes the critical question. Did it work? We used a 4-layer validation approach: automated vulnerability scanning, manual configuration verification, penetration testing, and compliance auditing. Let me share the penetration testing results. Eternal blue, blocked. The system said target not vulnerable, SMB v1 disabled, patch applied, done. RDP brute force, blocked. Network level authentication stopped the attack before it could even start testing passwords. TLS downgrade, blocked. Weak ciphers, gone. Connection refused. Lateral movement, blocked. Firewall rules stop traffic between network segments, making no way through. The before and after tells the whole story. Critical 1 to 0, high 5 to 0, medium 24 to 0, low 5 to 0. 100% remediation, 8 out of 8 systems clean, 0 exploitable attack vectors. All right, so if we bring it all together, on the compliance side, NIST SP 853, 100% of assessed technical controls implemented. DesignWorld now meets all federal security mandates. CIS benchmarks, 98% or higher across the board. That gives them an auditable baseline they can point to. ISO 27001, 100% of technical controls aligned. Their certification ready for their global operations. So what did we actually deliver? Complete vulnerability remediation, 35 to 0. Full compliance across 3 major frameworks. 0 exploitable attack vectors, and we proved it with penetration testing. And crown jewel protection. Their intellectual property is now behind multiple layers of defense. Looking ahead, we can recommend continuous vulnerability scanning, SIEM for centralized monitoring, zero trust architecture, and DLP for ongoing IP protection. Bottom line, DesignWorld has been transformed from a vulnerable post-breach organization to a secure, compliant enterprise ready to serve their U.S. government customers with confidence. That concludes the presentation. Thank you for your time.